guys, welcome back in. This is the second episode of Manga with Mira. We are back with another banger today. But just before we begin, I just want to give a couple disclaimers. First off, I am going to go through the whole story, so obviously there is going to be a big spoiler warning here. If you don't want to get the spoilers, you feel free to please read the story and then come back afterwards, so it's like we're gushing about it together and be like, oh my goodness, you too? Me too, wow! Besides the plot, everything else is my own viewpoint, and the point of the video is just to share a good story that I read with you guys. So obviously, if you guys have any differing opinions, you're free to think that, and I would love to know if you also loved it, you hated it, whatever it may be. I'm curious, and I always love discussing. I also super recommend that you guys read it for yourself, as even though this video is going to be really long, I am still only going over the overarching story. So if you want to fully grasp the story, I would recommend reading it so you can really get the nitty-gritty details for yourself. But without further ado, we are going to get into the story. The title for today is The Girl from the Other Side, or in Japanese, I believe it's Totsukuni no Shoujo. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong, if anyone here is native Japanese. The story and the art are both by, I don't want to butcher this, Nagabe. Nagabe sounds more Japanese-y, like the way that Japanese names flow. So I'm gonna go with Nagabe. But anyways, yes, so this story is completed. It is technically 60 chapters, but the main story is 53, and then they give you kind of like 7 bonus chapters. They do also have a 3-episode anime, so please show it some love. Hopefully they can make some more episodes. I would love to see more of this. I just think the art is really, really pretty, so I really want to see more of it. The story follows a girl named Shiva and a being called an outsider who she named Teacher, and it is about their day-to-day life with each other on the outside after they meet. On the surface, it's going to be a really cute and fluffy story, and they're bonding and they're living life together, learning how to do chores and how to survive in this new world together as a duo instead of just on their own. But that's just on the surface. Underneath it, there are many layers and many themes that the story goes through, including discrimination, racism, morality, love, and even more than that. So the pretext of the story is that there is an inside area of the world and an outside area of the world, and on the outside are beings called outsiders, and you can be cursed and turned into an outsider if you get touched by one. So everybody on the inside is really, really scared of being touched by an outsider. And this girl Shiva was said to be cursed, even though she showed no signs of it and was shunned. And so the only options for people who get marked as cursed are either to be killed or to be abandoned and left outside. Well, outside. So that's what her aunt decides to do. She abandons Shiva outside with a note, and Teacher finds her. So he finds her in the woods with that said note, and he saves her and brings her back with him to an abandoned house that they find together. And in this abandoned house, they start to develop a daily life together. They figure out a routine. he tries to learn how to care for her because outsiders don't feel anything. So he doesn't know how to care for a human because he doesn't know what hunger is, he doesn't know what sleep is, he doesn't know if it's cold or if it's hot or what things a human needs anymore to be comfortable, because he's long since forgotten those things. So they live in this house together, and he kind of acts as her guardian and her guide and her teacher and also her protector. So one day, an outsider breaks into the house and talks to Shiva and says that he knows where her aunt is. So she goes, "Oh, you know where my aunt is? Yeah, for sure. Take me to her. I want to meet her again. I got lost." And so she has to come back to find me. Teacher comes into the house and finds this outsider in it and grabs an axe and starts attacking it. And he finds that the outsider has grabbed Shiva's face and touched her. Dun dun dun! Yes, so he beats up this outsider, and like I mentioned earlier, outsiders can't feel anything, so they can't feel pain. They also can't die. So he chops off its head, and instead of dying, it just picks its head up and walks out and says that he'll come back for her because he wants to get her for Mother. Whose mother? I don't know, but he says he's gonna do it. So the next day, they go out, and Shiva is wailing, crying because she wants to find this being, this outsider, because he said he knows where Auntie is. Why would you hurt him? He knows where Auntie is. I want to be reconnected with Auntie. So teacher relents, and they go back out into the woods to find this creature, and they actually do end up finding it. She names it the Big One, and decides to lead them to Mother. And when they get to Mother, they find out that it's just a huge lake. And they go, "Huh? I thought you were bringing me to my auntie." And he goes, "No, I'm bringing you to Mother." It says that Mother is at the bottom of the lake. So obviously, teacher's like, "Dude, Shiva's gonna die down there. She can't swim to the bottom of the lake. She's a human." So the outsider, which I'm going to call the Big One now. So the Big One tells teacher, "Okay, then you come." So they both go down to the bottom of the lake, and teacher meets Mother, which is basically just a huge hole in the ground. He's like, "You must be kidding me right now. What do you mean you just brought me to a big hole in the lake?" The Big One is confused and goes, You don't know? Why don't you know? You're also one of us. So if you're one of us, you should know. All of us know." And all of the other outsiders in the lake go, Yeah, we know. We know everything. This is Mother, and we know what we are and what we have to do. How come you don't know? And so they spend some time down there, and the Big One and the other outsiders teach teacher a little bit about the curse and the truth. And when he comes out, teacher is visibly not disturbed, but shaken a bit, and is contemplating on whether or not to tell Shiva. But he decides not to, and they go back to the house and continue their day-to-day. What the truth is, I don't know. Who has any idea? They don't tell us. But yes, so at this point, the story cuts back to the inside world. And they're going to cut back and forth a lot. So what I'm going to do is I should be putting up in post a filter. I'm also going to be saying it, but for visual sakes, I'm also going to be putting a filter. That way you can tell the difference of when the story is inside and when the story is on the outside. So they cut to the inside and you see some churchgoers who are praying, and they're praying about the curse. And you see that there is some sort of prophecy involving, quote, the girl from the other side, and that this girl from the other side can save everyone. So the insiders plot to bring her back. That way they can free themselves from the curse. And so they're just talking and plotting, and they decide to hatch a plan to bring her back. So the story cuts back to the outside, and it's just another ordinary day for them. And Teacher and Shiva are wandering the woods like they normally do. They gather wood and try foraging for food. And Shiva suddenly drops everything and runs deep into the woods because who does she spot? Her aunt. So her aunt comes back and says she's there to bring her home. And so Shiva's like, yeah, let's go home. For sure. I missed you so much. Oh, I can't believe you came back for me. Teacher is off, also foraging, getting wood and whatnot to help keep the house warm for Shiva. And he finds her missing, so he goes to look for her and sees her with this random lady and goes, hey, what are you doing with her? Leave her alone. She's with me. You cannot take her, because he's doing his job as her proclaimed guardian. And so Shiva says, no, this is my auntie. She's here to take me home. Come on, let's go. And Teacher's like, what? This is your auntie? And she's taking you home, but you're here with me. She can't. You're with me. And so he tries to not save her, but he tries to stop her from going back. And once he tries doing that, she gets put into a carriage with bars on it to protect her, and a bunch of soldiers come out and start attacking Teacher, and they're shooting arrows at him and they're waving swords at him, and he tries to cling on to the carriage but eventually loses his grip, and they roam away. She goes back to the village with the auntie, and it seems like everything is going great. They go back to their house that they had, and it's a little dirtier than she remembers, but her auntie's a little bit older, so it makes sense. So she goes, okay, let's go clean up. And she's saying hi to all the villagers, and everyone's greeting her and welcoming her back and saying that the church has rendered her not cursed anymore, so she can live like normal again. Everything's back to normal. But Shiva says, but I really want you to meet Teacher. We spent so long together, and he's been protecting me and helping me this whole time. I really want you to meet him. But obviously, because they're on the inside, the auntie's like, absolutely not. You cannot be in contact with any outsiders. Are you sure that he didn't touch you at all? Not even a little bit? And Shiva says, no, I've never been touched. I'm still me. And she said, did any outsiders touch you? And she goes, no outsiders. We were just living together, that's all. And so they bond and they go to sleep, and they're reliving some memories. And the next morning, it seems like all hell has broken loose. She finds that her auntie has turned into an outsider, and the villagers have turned into outsiders, and everyone is in a panic. Everyone's running away. Nobody wants to be touched. Everything's also on fire because everyone was leaving in such a hurry that, either a lantern or things got knocked over, and it's just pure chaos. So she's trying to find her auntie, and she finds her turned into the outsider, and she tries to just run away because she sees that soldiers are after her again. So she's running and running through the village, and she's seeing all this chaos happen. So she goes to hide in an alleyway, and the soldiers find her in the alleyway and kind of corner her. But little do they know that the outsiders teamed up with Teacher in order to bring her back. So there's these birds who are outsiders, and they start attacking the soldiers. And while they're being attacked, Shiva takes the chance and runs away, and she manages to escape the soldiers and escape all the way back to the outside and finds Teacher again. The only thing is, now the aunt who is the outsider also is trailing behind her and silently follows. And Teacher goes, "There's no place for you here. Leave us." Because he doesn't know that this is Auntie. He just knows that this is a outsider that's now following them. But she still follows them anyway. So they all go back to the house together, and he learns that that's Auntie. The next day, Auntie and Shiva and Teacher are all kind of living together, adjusting to this new life with 3 people again. It's very visible that Auntie has a hatred for Teacher because obviously somebody touched her, right? Because she infected the whole village. But for some reason, Shiva is not an outsider herself, but everyone else is. But either way, that still means that she got touched. So Auntie thinks that Teacher is the one who touched her. And so there's some clear animosity, and she says, "Don't you ever touch her or get near her again, you monster! How could you do this? You touched her! You cursed her!" And is just spewing line after line at him. And so Teacher obviously distances himself a bit because he's just thinking about what's best for Shiva. While they're distancing themselves, Auntie and Shiva go out to the woods together, and the Auntie asks Shiva to run away with her, away from this monster who touched her and cursed her. And Shiva goes, "Huh? No, it wasn't. No. Yes, I did lie to you. I'm sorry that I lied to you and I turned you into the outsider. But it wasn't Teacher. Teacher actually is the one who protected me. It was another outsider that did it." So she goes, "Oh, okay." So they return to the house, and things seemingly become peaceful again, and they manage to make up. So they're all friendly, and once Shiva goes to sleep because she's a child, the Auntie and Teacher go outside and they have a heart-to-heart. And you learn that Auntie herself isn't even her real Auntie either. Auntie found Shiva in the forest on the outside and decided to bring her back in by playing her off as someone else's child. That's when she was started to be branded as a cursed child. But they didn't really find out about her until later in her life, maybe a couple years in. So she was able to live normally for a couple years until she was shunned and cursed and abandoned. The next day, they all wake up and they're making apple pies and they're bonding and they're just having fun together, making flower wreaths and flower crowns and doing laundry. And it's just a normal everyday thing. But later in the day, she was like, "Oh, I had a lot of fun making apple pies with you, Auntie." And Auntie goes, "Oh, apple pies, wow. Have I made those before? That sounds really yummy." And Shiva's like, "Oh, silly Auntie, what do you mean? We just did it." And she goes, "Oh, you're right. Yes, of course. And Teacher notices this, and he makes note of it and continues on silently watching. And later in the day, while they're doing laundry, Teacher offers to help Auntie do the laundry and goes, "Oh yeah, I can help you out. I'm glad that you and Shiva figured everything out." And she goes, "Shiva? That name sounds so familiar. I can't place it. Shiva?" And Teacher makes another mental note and goes, Oh no. Oh no. Because it seems like Auntie is getting pretty forgetful. The next morning, Shiva wakes up and she's ready to greet everyone. Good morning, teacher. Good morning. Where's Auntie? So she runs outside. Auntie, Auntie, where are you? She runs into the forest. Auntie, where are you? And teacher comes out to also find her. So they're both going, hello, where are you? And you see the big one. Do you remember the big one? You see the big one, that outsider. He comes out of the forest holding Auntie's quote-unquote head. Because she's an outsider, so she doesn't have a human head anymore. I'm gonna put a picture up here. But yes, so he comes out holding her head. And so obviously they go, what did you do to her? Because the last memory they have with the big one is not so great either. So they go, is she dead? And the big one goes, dead? No. Come on, follow me. I'll take you to her. And so they follow the big one into the forest, and they stop at a tree, at her favorite clearing, at Shiva's favorite clearing, and you see a big tree in the middle. And he goes, all right, here you go. And they go, oh, this is our clearing, but there's this big tree in the middle. So, that's weird. Where's Auntie? And you find out that all the outsiders, when they curse a human, they turn into an outsider, and then the next step is that they lose their memories. And after they lose their memories, the only fate they have is to turn into a tree. The big one notes to teacher and goes, why are you surprised? Didn't you know this would happen? And teacher goes, well, I knew she was losing her memories. And Shiva goes, huh? And teacher goes, yeah, but I didn't know she would turn into a tree. And the big one goes, that's weird. This is what I'm saying. You should know these things if you're one of us. But for some reason you don't know? What? You and I need to talk. After that, they go back home and they start fighting, and she calls him a liar. How could you keep this from me? You knew she was losing her memories. You knew all of this and you kept it from me. You're a liar. I hate you. You're stupid. I hate you. And she shuts him out of the room. And so he goes back outside to the forest just to think about it a little bit, and he gets jumped by a soldier. But it's not just any soldier, it's an outsider soldier. One of the ones that got turned into an outsider in the village. And the outsider says that he's looking for Shiva to help turn him back into a human. And he tries to lunge for teacher and manages to cut off one of his horns. But thankfully, he manages to run back to the house, and they make up lightly with each other, and then he tells her, this isn't any time. We have to get serious here because there's a soldier after us. And so they decide to run away from the house and go to another one that the auntie had mentioned to them while they were chatting. At this point, the story cuts back to the inside again. Enter filter. So it cuts back to the inside, and it shows them plotting to take her back again from the outside. And then it cuts back to the outside, back to the main story. So they found they found the new house, and they hear a noise outside, and they think that they've been caught. So teacher goes, hey, Shiva, I hear something. And Shiva's like, what? Huh? Who's there? Huh? And teacher's like, shut up. Go hide in the cupboard. I think it's one of the soldiers. So he grabs his weapon and readies himself and opens the door, ready to attack. And who is it? The big one. And the big one says, hey, so, I'm here to talk. Because you remember how I thought you were weird? Yeah, we need to discuss it. So it comes inside and they talk for a bit, and it explains to teacher more about children of mother, or what they call black children that mother can birth, and explains a little bit more about the truth of their existence and the truth of the world and the truth of the curse. And at the end, it makes a guess, and it says, I think maybe you're one of us, but it's still really weird that you don't know any of the things that we do. Did you lose your memory somehow? And this gets teacher a little riled up because he goes, no, I'm not one of you. I'm an insider. I was a human. I got turned into this disgusting thing. It's your fault. I'm not one of you. I'm an insider. I have to be an insider. And then so the big one goes, all right. So if you were an insider, what's your name? Because you seem to have your other memories. What's your name? And teacher can't remember. And he goes, I don't know. So obviously, to the big one, he goes, you see? So you're one of us. And things start to get a little heated, but since Shiva is sleeping in the place, they decide to go outside into the forest to talk. And while they're talking, they insist again that teacher is an outsider, and they're going back and forth and fighting. They talk all through the night, and on the way back, teacher sees Shiva falling out of the window and catches her just in time to save her. But the thing is, when he catches her, they accidentally touch. And at this point, teacher is like, "Well, no, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." But she brings up that the church people, when they took her back, said that she was, quote, blessed by the God in white. And that's why she hasn't been turned into an outsider yet, even though everyone else has. So they agreed that maybe it's fine to hug and touch now, because up to this point, he would not let them touch. He wouldn't hold hands. He wouldn't even let her follow too close or get too close, because he didn't even want to accidentally touch her. But he sees that Shiva is really hurting, because not only has she had to travel back and forth unwillingly to the inside, but now she also lost her auntie, and so she's still dealing with the hurt of that. So they finally share a hug, but the teacher still makes note of it and is still worried about her potentially catching the curse again. So again, the next day, while the teacher is out in the forest, a soldier comes to the house and kind of ambushes Shiva, and another one catches teacher in the forest. Thankfully, in the forest, more children come out to protect teacher, and you find out that they've evolved from the last time, and they were able to help tear the soldier apart to save teacher. Now, Shiva is not as lucky. The soldier, because it's been a couple days and some time has passed since they were initially attacking, he's turned a little bit more into a tree. So you see branches poking out of it all over, and he's really not in the best state, but he still presses onwards to find Shiva. And because of the branches, you also note that he is blind, because Shiva is hiding in the closet, and he opens the closet doors and he goes, all right, where are you? And Shiva goes, huh? I'm right here, but he can't see me? Okay, maybe if I just keep super quiet. But of course, she knocks over a pail and it goes boom, 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 boom. That's the sound of metal. And he goes, I got you. So he's looking for her and is ripping things out of the closet, and she manages to jump out and run away. But, and this is also movie timing, he grabs her by the boots and he's like, I got you. But she slips out of the boots and runs out into the snow, because it's winter right now. And she runs out into the snow to try to get away, and she goes, "Teacher! Teacher, help me! Teacher!" And because she's yelling, obviously, even though he's visually impaired, he can still find her. So the soldier catches her and slices her across the back to stop her from running, and she falls to the ground. And he gets on top of her and starts choking her. The thing is, though, because he's so far in his curse, he ends up turning into a tree in that form. So she's stuck being choked by a tree. And at this point, teacher is running out of the forest. "Shiva! Oh my god, Shiva!" And he's like, "I'll save you! I'm coming! Don't worry!" And he picks up the soldier's sword and starts swinging at the tree to help release her, and scoops her up and runs back towards the house with her. And he's inspecting her, trying to find what injuries she has, finds the one on the back, and then he notices something and says, "Shiva, what is this?" You see that she has a huge black splotch in the middle of her chest. She's been cursed. So he, takes care of her as best he can. Thankfully, the back wound that she got was shallow, so he was able to help with that. But the curse, there's no cure for that. So while she's resting and recovering, he is sitting outside, distraught. The other bird outsiders come back and they go, "Hey, what's wrong with him? Hey, what? Hello? Hi? Hello?" And the big one also comes. Sees that he's super distressed. And sorry, I say he, but it's really more of an it. So, the big one comes out and sees the teacher distraught, and it tells the teacher that children of mother actually have some special abilities. They can steal souls because that's what their job is. They steal souls and they bring it back to mother so that she can birth more children. But it also insinuates that because they can steal souls, this also means that they can manipulate souls. And so it tries to offer the idea of, well, if she's cursed, how about you just replace the cursed part of her soul with a new soul? And teacher goes, "Huh? This is possible? If you say I'm one of you, I want to try it. I want to save her." So he wakes up Shiva and says, Hey Shiva. Yes, teacher? I have to go out for a bit. Can you watch the house? What? You're leaving me? Just for a bit. It's really important. I have to go. Can you watch the house for me? Don't let anyone in. Okay, I guess. So he goes out, and this is, it's such a badass part. He goes, I'll become as monstrous as I have to be for her. Because obviously stealing a soul means killing someone for her. So he goes off and he tries to find these soldiers that are from the inside to try to get one for Shiva so that she can recover. Unfortunately, he does fail at this, and he does have the opportunity, but he, for some reason, hesitates. And in the process, he also loses part of his leg from the calf down on the left leg. And so he goes back a little defeated and can't find Shiva in the house. Last time this happened, she ended up almost dead. So he goes, Shiva, where are you? Shiva, please. And he finds her under a tree in the snow, and he says, hey, look, I know that I failed you before, but I will save you. So he shoves the sword in his chest and takes out his soul and offers it to her. And she wakes up the next morning completely cured. It worked, guys. It worked. But where's teacher? So she runs out and she goes, Teacher, Teacher, where are you? And she finds teacher, and he seems a little confused, and he's like, oh, good morning. Hello? And she goes, yeah, what are you doing out here? Come back home. Hi, come back with me. And he goes, okay. So teacher follows her back to the house, and he seems a little weird. He's not quite responding the way that he normally does. And she learns that he has lost all of his memories. What's a Shiva? Uh-oh! And so teacher starts becoming like the regular cursed outsiders, and is just kind of listless and doesn't really know anything. And so in this time, the soldiers that were attacked by teacher scrounge up their men together again, and they try to take Shiva back again. Only this time, teacher's not there to protect her, because he's basically just a shell of a thing now, because he's not even human anymore. So a shell of an outsider, really. And so he's just standing there, and Shiva's going, Teacher, please save me. Don't you care about me? And she just sees him standing there, staring into nothingness, because he doesn't have anything to himself anymore. So it cuts back to the inside at this point, because she's been brought back, and Shiva is now in a dungeon, waiting to be sacrificed. And so she gets put onto the pedestal. There's a whole ceremony going on. The king comes up with a knife, and right as he is about to plunge it into Shiva, he collapses to the ground and drops a knife. And you find out that the king has actually been in really poor health. So she gets sent back to the prison, and she's looking at this locket necklace that was given to her by teacher previously. And at this point, it cuts back to the king, and you see that the king, after he heals up a bit, went to the church to go to pray. And when he's at the church, he actually finds a secret hidden chamber. And the chamber leads to a room filled with all these books. And he gets found out by the priest, and so he confronts the priest and goes, hey, what is all this? And the priest tells him, well, these are all forbidden texts. Forbidden texts? What do you mean forbidden texts? Well, just read it. Here you go. And he passes him a book, and you learn in this chapter the truth about humans and the truth about how humans and outsiders came to be, and the real reason that the church wants Shiva, because they think that she is the purest of all of them, because she hasn't been turned into an outsider yet. And so they say, hey, she's been touched by outsiders, obviously, because the whole village was cursed, but she's still pure. So they want to take her and sacrifice her to give her to, quote, the Holy Father. And once the king finds out, the priest stabs him and just leaves him in the chamber. And so the priest is rushing back. And so it cuts back to the prison, and the prison door is burst open, and you find that Shiva is with a soldier there, because while the priest was down there with the king, Shiva is spoken to by this guard and soldier who says that they know teacher because they spotted the locket that she has, and says that it's actually someone named Albert. And she goes, no, it's teacher. What do you mean, Albert? This is given to me by teacher. You know teacher though? Where is he? I wanna go see him. And the soldier says, you can't. Albert's been dead 6 years. And right after this is when the door bursts open, and the priest goes, all right, I'm gonna do the ceremony. Don't worry about the king. He's, obviously sick, so I'm gonna do it. It's fine. hurry up, let's get back to the ceremony. So they run back to set everything up, and she's back on the pedestal, and she gets almost sacrificed again. But the king interrupts the ceremony, and the soldier also saves her. And so they manage to escape back to the outside, and she runs away, and she makes her way back to the forest, back to where the house that they were at was, and back to Teacher. But when she finds Teacher, he's not the same Teacher that she knew. He's pretty much almost turned into a tree. There's branches coming out of every part of him. He's very deformed. You can barely recognize him. And she gets so sad, and she just goes, well, here's your locket. I have it. I'm returning it to you though because it's yours. And she holds on to his hand when she's giving the locket to him. And when she handed him the locket, you see that Teacher's hand is slowly transforming from a tree branch to less tree branches into a hand. Albeit a black hand still, because he's still an outsider, but still a hand. He's transformed back. But Shiva's hand, it's slowly elongating and slowly turning all black. Is she becoming an outsider? I thought she was special. What happens? And so at this point, you learn the actual truth. And it turns out that Shiva is also one of Mother's children. And she is also the one who initially found Albert on the brink of death in the forest, and decided, on a whim really, to give him her head. I say head, but because it's an outsider, it doesn't really matter much to them. So she decided to test it out and gave him her head and turned him into the outsider that he is today. And not only did she do that, but she also took his soul and kept it inside of her. And because she had his soul, that turned her into Shiva. That's why she was found on the outside. And I know it sounds confusing, but essentially think of it like they swapped bodies. His soul went into her body, and her body covered his shell, which turned him into the outsider. So Shiva never really existed because the soul that created Shiva is his. So they get into a huge fight, and she tells him that she's not Shiva and that Shiva never existed. But if he wanted Shiva back, all he has to do is give her back the soul. But, he doesn't really have much time, because at this point, the soul was Albert's, but she took it, so she became Shiva, and then she got injured as Shiva, so he gave her more of his soul, and then she gave it back to him through the locket. So it's been passed back and forth like 3-4 times at this point. So there's really not much soul left back to give, and it's rapidly deteriorating. And so she said, you have this amount of time, decide what you want to do. And she leaves. Now the thing is that he doesn't know is that she never planned on taking the soul back. She walks back to the lake, back to Mother, and decides to return to become part of her again. But what she didn't know is that Teacher realized her plan and followed after her and dove down to bring her back up. And so he pulls her out, and he said that he made his decision. And so you see them together in the end, living happily. Freely even. But what forms are they in? Is he human? Is he an outsider? Is she an outsider? Is she in her child form? Or is she back as Shiva? And I think for that part, I'm gonna leave that for you guys to experience. And that's pretty much how the story ends. Wasn't that so riveting? Oh, it's so good. And the art throughout the whole thing is so good. Like I said in the beginning though, this is really only the overarching story. I really think that you guys should read it if you want the whole thing, because there's a lot more that I really didn't touch upon and a lot more details to help you get a better grasp of the severity of some situations, or a better understanding of how things or why things are. But yes, so if you guys want to support this story, please go check it out. And let me know what your thoughts are if you want in the comments below, or if you have any other recommendations, please do give it a like. And also let me know in the comments. And I know every YouTuber does this, but if you want to see any more of my videos, I do release gameplay videos on Saturday, and Sundays will either be one of these, or a cover, or maybe even something else, wink wonk. But I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!